Good morning to you all. It is I, the Nomad, coming to you live from the wastelands of the internet. Once again, I have returned with news and a personal rant. Good morning, TM. Good morning, Matt. How are you doing? I hope your day is going, well, better than mine in a certain sense, okay? Um, Let me start with my own little personal rant today. All right, as things have gone off the rails in a slightly personal kind of a way. Good morning, Oz. Howard, nice to see you. My own little personal rant starts with, well, a couple days ago, specifically on Thursday evening, I was taking my car to go get my son when I felt like when I came to a stop sign and it felt like somebody hit me from behind. And of course, you immediately look in the mirror as I was stopped and I thought I got thumped. And I looked in the mirror and there's nobody there. And so I went to the next stoplight and the thump happened again. And it was at that point that I realized that thump is a slipping clutch in the automatic transmission. And so I needed to get a new car. Okay. I needed to get a car. And I had to go through that process the next day to go through that. The process of getting a car started at around 10 a.m. in the morning and finally ended at 4 in the afternoon. Now, I don't know what it is about car dealerships, but why do you, in these car dealerships, why do you guys got to keep people just sitting around? You're in a car dealership, you look around, and the first thing that will amaze you is the number of people working in a car dealership. And it doesn't freaking matter. Okay? It doesn't matter. I don't mind if it takes 6 hours, if I'm going through stuff. If I'm sitting on my ass without anybody around me helping me to do anything, that's when I get a little annoyed. All right? And I can't tell you, I mean, the salesperson that I was dealing with he was nice and he seemed to be trying to do things, but I'm looking around the rest of the dealership and all these people are standing around, at various times and walking around. I'm like, do you guys ever get any freaking things done? I'm just kind of wondering, do you guys ever get anything taken care of? All right. Oh, they did offer me water and they did offer me coffee and snacks if I wanted it and anything else. That wasn't the point. Right? I just want to go in there, look, pick the car that I want, say, okay, sign whatever paperwork you need me to sign. I expect it to be ready to go, right? Fairly quickly. Because, computers make things fast. Printing this stuff out should be fairly quickly. Pay my money that I'm going to have to put down, and then leave with the vehicle. I don't think that's too much to ask. All right? I really don't. Anyway, personal bitch over. So, I got a nice car, but, the cost of all these things now is, I mean, I can deal without having the arm, but man, I'm going to miss my leg. You lose that arm and the leg, it's going to the dealership. So, but anyway, on with the news, shall we? Let's get to the news. Ukraine expects Russia to launch a fresh offensive to strengthen its negotiating position. No shit. Here's a question. Where's the 2 years ago promised Ukrainian offensive? Just curious. Let's go down here a little bit. Russian forces are preparing to launch a fresh military offensive in the coming weeks to maximize the pressure on Ukraine and strengthen the Kremlin's negotiating position in ceasefire talks, Ukrainian government and military analysts said. The move could give President Vladimir Putin every reason to delay discussions about pausing the fighting in favor of seeking more land. The Ukrainian officials said, renewing their country's repeated arguments that Russia has no intention of engaging in meaningful dialogue to end the war. The spring fighting season drawing near, the Kremlin is eyeing a multi-pronged push across the 1,000-kilometer front line, according to analysts and military commanders. Citing intelligence reports, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russia is getting ready for new offensives in the North Sumy and Kharkov and Zaporizhzhia regions. They are dragging out talks, trying to get the U.S. stuck in endless and pointless discussions about fake conditions to buy time and then grab more land, Zelensky said Thursday in a visit to Paris. Putin wants to negotiate over territory from a stronger position. Now, does anybody doubt that? Because I don't. I can see the draw of eBay Motors delivery or Carvana deliveries. Just buy the dang car and put it where you say. Done. I hear you. I hear you. The one thing about that, okay, is my eldest daughter went through the Carvana process, and she's more or less happy. But there were little things with the car that had to be worked on. And it's one of the more annoying things that you can't see the car, you can't feel the car, you can't touch the car, you can't take a look at the car, maybe do a test drive to see whether or not the car is worth what you want it to be. All right, because the money you're going to play out on it. But back to the Zelensky. No shit, dude. Okay. Um, Russia does not look at the Ukraine as a separate independent country. Vladimir Putin does not look and look at Kiev and say Kiev is part of the Ukraine. He looks at Kiev and says that's a breakaway, seditious area of Mother Russia. And that's how he feels about it. So the fact that he's trying to do things to strengthen his position, we all know that's what he's going to do. But that's not the question. If he's going to do something like that, the question is how successful is this actually going to be? They've already lost the Kursk territories that they had before. Let's even take a look at a map here. All right, this was the big Kursk thing. Remember all this stuff here? Now you have the Russian Ministry of Defense claims to occupy the Vaslevkia village of the Sumy region of the Ukraine. Okay. Now, this is where fighting is still going on, all right, as they push out from this Kursk little offensive that was intended to draw support away from down here. And you can say it was successful. Okay, and I want to be clear about this. Just with the Ukrainians, when they did that, it was a success in the sense that it did relieve pressure here. But at what cost? And this is significant. People are finally coming to the admission that this intrusion into the Kursk cost a lot for the Ukrainians. Specifically, a lot of their armored vehicles were tied up in that offensive. and they were destroyed. And they're not being replaced. There's the big thing. We gave you M1s. We gave you the Bradleys. But we're not going to keep supplying you Bradleys and keep supplying you M1s. And now you've used them all. Where are you going to get more? So what it looks like is happening is up in these areas is they're doing feeler points as they get ready for another offensive. And I suspect that the big offensive that they're going to try to push, to be honest, is they're going to try to take Kharkov. Either that or Zaporizhzhia. All right. Taking Zaporizhzhia is a bit more difficult because you've got a river and a marshland to go through this area. All right. For them to do it, they would have to be able to go across like this. So eventually, what I think that the Russians would like to see is they would like to see an establishment of a line along these rivers here, along this river up to this point. I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I'm not even talking about it, but if they can take this along this area here, they could establish a defensive line. All right, against the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians, on the other hand, if they lose that area, it just makes makes it that much more difficult to try and take the areas back. But that's where the rub is. Seriously, the Ukrainians right now don't have the ability to push the Russians out. Now, I hear what people are saying, and I understand this. But the first question that I think needs to be asked is, according to some of the analysis that I've seen, they claim that the Ukrainians have 800,000 men under arms in fighting in this, against 1.2 million Russians. Okay, so my question is, why aren't the Ukrainians winning? No man, no man. Can't you see the difference? It's like 3 to 4 differential there in manpower, or two to three, something like that. Right? Okay. And you've been given weapon systems and the intelligence systems of the Western world, specifically the United States. The United States warfare plans were to defeat overwhelming numerical superiority of the Russians in the Soviet days. Our equipment is more than capable of doing that. But you see, you have to train warfare a little bit differently in order to actually achieve that. Now, granted, the one big discrepancy is we're talking men, we're not talking planes. And planes give you options that no planes don't. Okay? Air power is a serious force multiplier. There's no doubt about that. But once again, the way it's been utilized has not been maximized. Now, part of that is because, quite frankly, the Russians have overwhelming air power, all right, against the Ukrainians. That's a reality. But Zelensky has done his own freaking problems. And pissing off the United States was one of the big ones. Because if he thinks that these allies of his in good old Germany and so forth, all right, like this, Britain and France, all right, sending military teams to Ukraine to deter Putin. The British and French military teams will be deployed to Ukraine in coming days, said Macron. The delegation from the UK and France will be set to work with Ukrainian armed forces as part of a reassurance force, even if the idea is not backed by all European allies. And they're having another meeting in Paris, by the way, today. All right, to get a quote unquote coalition of the willing to go in there. If only he still had a ghost of Kiev, but he had videos to make. Uh, yeah, the Phantom Kievian ace fighter. In very specific terms, we agree that the Prime Minister of Great Britain and I will instruct our chiefs of defense to ensure that a Franco-British team is sent to the Ukraine within a few days for very close cooperation with our Ukrainian partners, Macaroon told reporters earlier this afternoon. He said the announcement about the military delegation to the Ukraine, all right, but said that the decision is not unanimous. Such a force would not be a substitute for any peacekeeping soldiers on the ground, maintaining any ceasefire between Russia and the Ukraine. Nothing has been ruled out. We will look to sea forces, ground forces, and air forces. Sea forces? Sea forces, really? What sea forces? Are they going to send the French carrier on over there? The mighty French fleet? No, man. No, man. What about you mean the British fleet? ATC. By the way, you're welcome to join me if anyone's awake. Well, welcome to join me in Discord if you want to come in. The British fleet, which has in active service right now fewer ships than they have admirals. Really? The French fleet with their one working aircraft carrier. Good Chris. This reassurance force should not substitute the peacekeeping forces on the contact line or the strong and robust Ukrainian army. In other words, we're going to send some high level officials. I don't want us to get involved. Nobody wants us to get involved. I hear you, man. I hear you totally. Look, what they're talking about sending over there are some high-ranking individuals. All right, without any troops, without any equipment. We don't want them on the front lines. What the hell are you doing? What the hell are you sitting there for? This is what your allies, Zelensky, are going to send you. Here you go. That's what you're going to send. Really. That's what you're going to send. Let's talk about some more of your allies. The Germany is unlocking billions to supercharge its military at a seismic moment for Europe. Really? Central Germany from CNN. German Brigadier General Ralph Hammerstein asks a wiry question. Do you think you can trust Putin? It's a rhetorical question to which most of Europe would give the answer, no, but we will still buy his gas in order to power our economic fuel. In order to keep the electricity ready, we'll still buy Russian fuel. But we won't trust him. As the Trump administration continues to pursue a deal to end the war in Ukraine, one that may end up being more favorable to Moscow than Kiev. That that's debatable, but it's not necessarily inaccurate. Okay, it kind of depends on your point of view. From the point of view of someone like Zelensky, which says we must have all of our land back, you're not getting all your land back. So from that standpoint, he's 100% correct. Europeans, for the first time in decades, are focusing on their own military might. Ding, ding, ding, ding, ding. Really? Okay. Nowhere is the shift more prominent as in Germany. Its armed forces, known as the Bundeswehr, has been victim of years of underinvestment. But that is set to change. Why were they underinvesting in it? Why is that? Why was it that these guys in there have thought about backstabbing us constantly in the UN, but at the same time we're underinvesting in your own freaking armed forces for your own freaking protection? For decades. Presumptive Chancellor Friedrich Merz has decided that now is the moment for Germany to invest in its military on levels not seen since the Cold War, and that's the issue. Germany has just passed a major reform to its constitutional debt brake, unlocking billions of euros in funding. One model shared with CNN suggested that over a 10-year period, Germany, with spending of 3.5% of GDP, it could amount to $600 billion in 10 years. Our defense budget is $700 billion a year. And you're telling me that Germany, which has approximately 80 million people, between 60 and 80 million people, I believe, that's about a fifth of the size of the United States. But you're not going to spend a fifth of what the U.S. spends on defense, are you? No, of course not. It's still not enough. That's my point. All right. And that's what they're saying. They've suggested. All right. CNN spent the day with the Bundeswehr at an undisclosed location in central Germany as 5 NATO allies took part in training exercises. The simulation was an attack by a foreign adversary on another member alliance. Okay. We'll be talking about that, by the way, Mr. Barkley. All right. Um, no, after the Cold War, the German Bundeswehr just basically went to hell. But the big problem that they're going to run into is how are you going to plus up your military? It's not a matter of money anymore. And I'm serious about this. Do you think that the German populace, I want you to hear this. Do you really think that the German populace that exists today is going to sit up there and go, okay, we're going to join in to plus up? We're going to plus up the number of troops that we have on active duty? How are you going to do it? Because right now you got rid of conscription. So how are you going to do it? How do you plan to plus it up? Is Germany going to go back to a draft? I don't see them doing it. I see them talking up a game. I see them talking out their ass. But I can tell you right now, they're not going to do it. They do not have the population, all right, to do this. And I don't mean the physical things. They don't have the people's, their leaders can say that they need to do it, But they got to convince the populace. Good luck. Put big titty women around. I'm just pointing this out. You're not going to be able to get these guys to show up. And the ones that do are going to be the ones that you hate. And that's the problem. No, man, no, man. How could you say something like that? How could you say that? Because the ones that'll be going in, the ones that'll be saying, yes, I'll join for this, are going to be the ones that truly believe in Germany. They're going to be the German patriots. They're going to be the ones that believe I need to defend my country. You know what else they are? They're the ones that you accuse of being the far right lunatics. And not saying that there aren't some. Okay? But those are the ones that you hate. The Bundeswehr or the Wehrmacht of old, okay? You're not going to be able to do this. If you want to come back and talk about this shit, all right? And you're going to try and plus these guys up, they're not prepared to do it. They're not. The population isn't. A Ukrainian man, 30, is identified as a suspect in Amsterdam's mass stabbing after a British tourist stopped the knife man who had slashed 5. Police say that a man suspected of stabbing 5 people in Amsterdam is a 30-year-old from Ukraine. Investigators said he hailed from the Donetsk region of the east of the country, which is largely operated as a breakaway state from the Ukraine for more than a decade and was unlawfully annexed by Russia in 2022. Panic struck St. Nicholas Strat on Thursday as a knifeman stabbed 5 people: a 67-year-old American woman, a 69-year-old American man, a 26-year-old Polish man, and a 73-year-old Belgian woman, and a 19-year-old local woman. The suspect was apprehended by a brave British tourist who chased him down and tackled him to the ground, kneeling on him to prevent his escape. Uh-oh. Did somebody scream George Floyd? Did he complain about not being able to breathe? I'm just shocked that it wasn't an Arab or an African. Okay. The police said that today a 30-year-old suspect will be brought before an examining magistrate in the court in Amsterdam on Tuesday, who will rule on whether he can be continued to be detained ahead of trial. You're going to let a guy who stabbed a 73-year-old woman, a 67-year-old woman, and a 69-year-old man, and you're thinking about, well, we have to establish whether he can be detained ahead of trial? Really? This suspect will be brought before the examining magistrate of the court in Amsterdam on Tuesday, April 1st. Shouldn't you have already had the decision already handed down to say, no, we're not letting this stupid son of a bitch out? All right. Who will decide a possible extension of the pre-trial detention? Um, the investigation team is still busy with the investigation. We can therefore not answer any other questions at this time. Okay. Uh, Detectives said that the suspect checked into the hotel in Amsterdam on March 26th and used several knives in the attack. After knifing 5 people, seemingly at random, he was apprehended at nearby Gravenstraat shortly after the incident as he sought to make his escape, injuring his leg in the process. Police say they are still trying to identify the motive. Dramatic CCTV shows the man sprinting through a narrow street in pursuit of the attacker. The tourist, since then dubbed the hero of Dom, then pinned the suspect with his knee to prevent him from carrying out any further assaults. Eyewitnesses spoke of seeing a knife at least 10 centimeters sticking out of a girl's back between her shoulders. A 26-year-old Polish man injured in the attack has been discharged from the hospital. The other victims remain in the hospital in stable condition. The British man was recognized for his bravery by the mayor of Amsterdam, who gave him an award for his heroic actions. The message on Instagram, Mayor Femke Halselma, I'm not trying to butcher your name, I just don't know how to pronounce it for sure. This afternoon, will talk to the citizen who managed to overpower the suspect, to hear his story, and to be able to thank him for his heroic action. Right? That absolutely none of the Dutch men around had capabilities of doing. And I can hear it now. Why didn't the American take care of it? Why was it the British? Okay, well, first of all, it sounds like the 26-year-old Polish guy probably attempted to help out and got stabbed for the process. The British guy went in there to go after him. The Americans, I don't know what other Americans were around there, but the Americans he attacked were old people, right? So it is what it is. Now, I've heard various other stories and rumors going around. I'm willing to withhold judgment on this because I'm as far as what exactly this guy's who this guy is. I have a sneaky suspicion because they keep avoiding putting his name out that it's somewhere like Allah bin Hamas Muhammad. Okay, I'm just it makes me wonder. Okay, if you're not putting the guy's name out, you know he came from the Ukraine, is what you said. I have a feeling they're lying. Okay, I just put it out there. I have a feeling they're lying. Hamas out! Protests spread across Gaza. Rare demonstrations call for the end of conflict with Israel. Oh, please! I hope this continues. Hundreds of Palestinians shouted anti-Hamas slogans in a rare protest in Gaza on Tuesday. Hamas out! Hamas terrorists were chanted by the mostly male demonstrators in Beit Lahiya as they called for an end to the war with Israel, witnesses said. The crowd gathered a week after the Israeli army resumed its intense bombing of the coastal territory following nearly 2 months of truce. On the social media network Telegram, at least one appeal to protest was circulating on Tuesday. The French agency, the Agence France Presse, or the AFP news agency, reported. CNN reported that another message on social media appeared to call for 9 anti-Hamas demonstrations across Gaza on Wednesday, while clips obtained by the network showed crowds marching through the streets of Beit Lahiya, chanting, "We want an end to the war." That's probably the first positive sign that I have seen from the Palestinians. But you're going to need to do more than that. You're going to have to start ousting these people yourself. You want to end this war? You're going to have to get rid of Hamas. It's that simple. Meanwhile, Columbia University succumbs to most of Trump's demands in exchange for federal funding. No shit. Really? The Ivy League school agreed to ramp up its disciplinary processes, hire security teams with arrest powers, and appoint an official to oversee departments that offer courses about the Middle East. Columbia University ceded to President Donald Trump's demand in exchange for the $400 million in federal funding that his administration didn't threaten to withhold. They did withhold it until they agreed. All right, including rules that further restrict and criminalize protesting on campus, according to a memo from the school to the White House. Earlier this month, Trump had pulled federal funding and contracts from Columbia over claims the university didn't protect Jewish students throughout the Palestinian anti-war demonstrations on campus last year. The administration presented Columbia with rules to follow if they wanted the money, and the university agreed to nearly all of them. The Wall Street Journal first reported Columbia agreed to ban masks during the protest and to hire 36 new campus police officers and empower them to remove individuals from campus and or arrest them when appropriate. Appoint a senior vice provost with broad authority to oversee the Department of the Middle East, South Asia, and African Studies, as well as the Center for Palestine Studies, among other things. This is just the start of this, folks. You're going to have to do a lot more because these people are terrorists. Okay? They're not pro-Palestinians. They are Marxist Islamo-terrorists. They always have been. I do not understand why people don't get the fact of who these people really are. And we've only started, but meanwhile, of course, we have judges in this country trying to prove, oh, we can't kick them out, you gotta let them in. I want a combat-ready sword. There are combat-ready swords out there. They are more expensive. Okay, that is very true. Okay, most swords that you see are not combat ready. There are ones there, and there are people that do sell them. You're not going to get anything worth buying for under $600. Okay, and even at $600, you really, if you want a combat sword, a real decent combat sword, you're looking at probably at least $1.5 grand. At which point you're like, well, I could buy, bang bangs. Yeah. The art of ching ching is always superior. Okay. JD Vance arrives in Greenland. It's cold as shit out here. Nobody told me. I think he was joking, folks. All right. Vice President JD Vance arrived in Greenland, which President Trump hopes to annex, and was ready with some humor, telling U.S. military personnel, it's cold as shit here. Nobody told me. Vance, 40, said Air Force Two flew over some pretty cool spots approaching the northern coast of the world's largest island before I don't know if you could call Greenland the world's largest island. I think Australia has that, like, all right. I think they own that. About Nomad, that's a continent. Okay, but it's still an island. All right, it's a continent-sized island, is what it is. Just put it out there. Vice President was joined on his whirlwind stop in the Arctic by the Second Lady Usha Vance, all right, the National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, all right, Energy Secretary Chris Wright, and Utah Republican Senator Mike Lee. Okay, I'm going to be really blunt with something. Okay, they need to get rid of Mike Waltz. And I'm dead serious about this. Okay. This whole kerfluffle where they talked about the Signal, being on Signal and so forth. And I'll probably talk about this a little bit more later. But Mike Waltz is not someone that needs to be on the team. Now, they keep focusing on Hegseth because they really hate Hegseth. But Hegseth had nothing to do with what happened with that. As far as taking Greenland goes, look, could we take Greenland? Yes. Are we going to take it violently? No. We're not going to do it. Okay. We may eventually, through some strong arm tactics, force Denmark to release it. But I guarantee you we are not going to sit up there and militarily go in there and say, "Oh, seize it," and say it's ours. Okay, I say that at this point. Are there scenarios in which I can see such an action being taken? Yes, there are certain scenarios that I can see as seizing Greenland, all right, through military force. But we are nowhere close to any of that at this point in time. We just aren't. It has to be done before anything. uh, you mean you take Gary House? Yeah, no, there's some home repairs that I got to do too, which is why it was kind of a setback to have to buy to get a car. But at least, well, I mean, this is sad. Massive quake rocks Myanmar and Thailand. Hundreds feared dead. A powerful earthquake rocked Myanmar on Friday, causing extensive damage across a wide swath of one of the world's poorest countries and prompting officials to warn that the initial death toll, already above 140, I think it's over 300 now, all right, was likely to grow in days ahead. In neighboring Thailand, at least 6 died in Bangkok, where a high rise under construction collapsed. Thank God it wasn't full of people. The full extent of death and injury and destruction was not immediately clear, particularly in Myanmar, which is embroiled in a civil war and where information is tightly controlled. The death toll and injuries are expected to rise, the head of the Myanmar military government, Senior General Min Aung Hlaing, all right, said as he announced on television at least 144 people were killed and at least 730 were injured in his country. In Thailand, authorities in Bangkok said 6 people were killed and 22 injured, and 101 were missing from 3 construction sites, including the high rise. They revised the death toll Saturday morning to from 10 reported the previous day, saying that several critically injured people were mistakenly reported dead. Bangkok Governor Shadshart Sitpunt, I'm not trying to butcher your name, sir, all right, said more people were believed to be alive in the wreckage as search efforts continued Saturday morning. In the 7.7 magnitude quake struck at midday with the epicenter near Mandalay, Myanmar, the country's second largest city. Aftershocks followed, one of them measuring as strong as 6.4 magnitude. Myanmar is in an active earthquake belt, although many of the tremblers happened in sparsely populated areas, not in cities like those affected on Friday. The U.S. Geological Survey and the American government science agency estimated that the death toll could top 1,000. Yeah, it's this is tough, all right, because there's no way to prevent these things from happening. Now I can hear people already. What? No, man. Why don't we just take it the American way? Don't live there. Well, we're only one San Andreas fault away from joining them in this regard, folks. So just be thankful for what we have. Meanwhile, rallies grow in South Korea as the court weighs the president's fate. Hundreds of thousands of South Koreans rallied for and against impeached President Yoon Suk Yeol on Saturday as protests grow while the country's constitutional court weighs whether to dismiss him. Yoon was impeached by lawmakers over his disastrous December 3rd declaration of martial law, and the court last month held weeks of tense impeachment hearings to determine whether to officially remove him from office. The wait has only emboldened rival camps to hit the streets with greater numbers every weekend. On Saturday, main streets through the central Seoul were filled with protesters for and against Yoon, carrying political signs and waving flags despite the cold weather. The people are overwhelmed with fatigue and frustration as the ongoing crisis remains unresolved, said Lee Han Sol, 34, who was protesting for Yoon's dismissal. The ongoing delays have led to a growing sense of skepticism. But Yoon supporters, whose members include right-wing YouTubers and religious figures, told AFP his impeachment trial is unlawful. The Constitutional Court won't be able to ignore us. Look at us. There are so many of us here, said Lee Hae-suk of 58. The Constitutional Court was given 180 days, 6 months, right, from the time it took on Yoon's impeachment case to issue a ruling, meaning that it has until June to decide its fate. And you thought our justice system was freaking AFU, right? Look, it, eventually, if this continues, eventually, this is going to lead to violence. Eventually, the two sides are going to clash. Okay? Now, I'm going to warn all these people, all right, on the leftist side of this argument. Who was the guy's name? Lee Han-sol. Lee Han-sol, you and your group are going to come out on the short end of this stick. Okay? It's one thing when leftists hit the streets by themselves, do damage, run around and whatever, or protest, without any kind of opposition facing them. And I'm just trying to point this out to you guys. When opposition, however, is of equal size, hey, welcome. When opposition is of equal size,
Can't hear a word you're saying.
you can't hear. Oh.
You're muted to me.
Welcome. I'm sorry. I wasn't muted on the stream though this time.
I know.
Okay. Eventually, this is going to lead to violence.
What's going to lead to violence?
The protests going on in Seoul, South Korea. Let me
mean
put
Seal?
Huh? Seal? No. Hold on, just a second here.
Oh yeah, that city that was named after the guy who played Starsky and Starsky and Hutch. Sorry, Hutch and Starsky and Hutch.
Not quite. There you go. Welcome, FB. How are you doing today?
Don't ask.
Okay, I won't.
Well, screen is complete blank.
It says that it's there. Let me try and do it again.
Hold on. No, it's probably me.
Let me start it again.
It's probably on my end.
Well, we'll find out in a second. 3, 2, boom. There it goes. Says that it's sharing.
Nope, still blank.
Still blank?
Still blank. Hold on. Yeah, I think I've got it. No, it's okay until I do the pop out.
Oh. Well, I can't help you with that. But welcome. Welcome just the same.
Thank you.
I appreciate you coming on. You can kind of keep me somewhat sane. At least
Is that what you think I'm supposed to be doing here?
At least that's my expectation.
Yeah.
All right, what's happening in South Korea though is you've got them arguing about the the impeachment of the president, of the former president, or I don't know what he would consider him now, right? Which is still going on, and you have a group that is saying to get rid of him, and another group of thousands that's saying keep him. So you got two opposing forces here roughly about the same size of protests going on.
Right.
If this continues, and it's going to be continuing until June, because the court has until June to decide. I want not to, I don't know, to actually remove him. It's going to continue to fester.
Well, the same thing's happening in the West, man.
And well, yeah, but when you have two protests of equal size, when they clash, I'm going to be real blunt. The left isn't going to win. It's one thing when leftists win in protests, it's because they are relatively unopposed.
Yeah.
When there's equal sizes to these, violence will eventually erupt.
And is it true what I've been hearing that North Korea is falling apart?
Well, I mean, yes, but it's going to go through some changes right now. There's some shuffling that's been going on within the backgrounds because the successor for Kim Jong Il or Kim Jong Un or whatever the hell his name is.
Kim Jong Un.
Yeah, his successor is technically his sister.
Yeah.
And his sister.
And let's face it. Let's face it. Those are some awfully big shoes to fill.
But his sister is. First of all, his sister is far more ruthless than he is.
Women in those positions tend to be.
But by the same token,
they overcompensate.
Yeah, but by the same token, she doesn't have this kind of support, the total support of the military that she needs at this point.
Well, no, because she's a woman, and you know how people in that part of the world view women.
That is an aspect of this. Okay, although North Korea is less held to that, to be honest. Okay, than most of the countries within Asia.
On the surface, yes.
Not just on the surface, from the population wise.
Hello, Matthew.
Population wise,
James.
It's surprising, but population wise, there's a much higher degree of acceptance. All right, than what you see in even Japan, to be honest. All right.
Do the usual two things.
What's the usual two things?
Like and share.
Oh.
Not that you deserve it, but I'll do it anyway.
I greatly appreciate you, sir.
So you should, young lady.
Let's talk some more about this issue here. Mike Waltz's Venmo is public and it's full of journalists. The figure who tagged a journalist into a Signal chat about the attack on Yemen also failed to set his Venmo to private, revealing his willingness to engage with reporters of all political stripes. This week, The Atlantic published a stunning article on a group Signal chat that included the highest-ranking officials of the U.S. military and intelligence community coordinating and executing a bombing campaign against the Houthis in Yemen. Okay, that is a lie. They were not doing any kind of coordinating or executing. All right, they were talking about the execution of a bombing campaign that was against the Houthis. All right, Jeffrey Goldberg, leftist loon and Trump deranged hating psychopath, the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic and author of the article, was tagged into the chat by the National Security Advisor Mike Waltz, a mistake that afforded the EIC a front row seat to the officials as high up as the Secretary of Defense and the Vice President debating the decision. They weren't debating it; they were discussing as things were ongoing. Okay, that is completely different than debating them. Right? Once the attack plans for Yemen were revealed, Goldberg chose to remove himself from the group chat before reversing course after public backlash. He censored parts of the conversation on national security grounds. Okay, first of all, he didn't censor anything on national security grounds. Okay, number one. Number two is we don't know exactly how at least they haven't reported to us yet, how Mike Waltz invited this SOB into this encrypted chat group. Okay. Now, Mike Waltz, with all due respect, has to go. He may not have been the one that did it, but he's overseeing a group of people who were obviously moles. This was not an accident. This was not, and I'm going to be real blunt here, this was not negligence in the sense of this guy being put onto the chat. It was intentional that he was put onto the chat. And it was a coordinated effort that Jeffrey knows exactly who put him on there. And Jeffrey also knows, all right, that he was coordinating with the DNC to bring it up in an issue when they were going to hold a hearing. Which is why nothing was said about this when it was going on. Huh?
So it's a fit-up job.
It is a setup job. Now, Mike Waltz might not have been the one that did the setup, but he's got a mole. I guarantee you, he's got a mole, all right, of leftist loons that's working for him that did this. And if Mike Waltz hasn't fired the guy, and I haven't heard that he has, then Mike Waltz needs to go too, and his entire team needs to go.
I would say that's they should go, because let's face it, these days, doesn't matter what side of politics says they're all on the same side.
Well, some of them are. But it doesn't matter when you've got somebody as disgraceful like this working against the administration deep within the administration. You've got to get rid of these people. You got to get rid of them.
Yep. And if you excuse me, I've got to go and deal with some biological necessities.
Okay, come back when you're ready.
I will. I will be upstairs uttering that 52-letter word that begins with N and ends in N.
As you can hear, I got a phone call coming in.
You know which one I mean.
Yes. I'll talk to you later.
I'll see you in a bit.
All right. Meanwhile, hundreds of thousands joined mass opposition protest in Istanbul. A mass rally organized by the main opposition party in Turkey, the Republican People's Party, kicked off in Istanbul on Saturday, while student groups have maintained the momentum with smaller protests ever since the city's mayor, Erkam İmamoğlu, was arrested on March 19th. This was the first major demonstration to take place since Tuesday. Hundreds of thousands of people joined a mass opposition protest in Istanbul on Saturday, rallying to defend democracy after the arrest of the city mayor, Erkam İmamoğlu. AFP correspondent said at the scene. And Özgür Özel, the leader of the main opposition CHP, which organized the protest, told demonstrators there were 2.2 million people in the crowd, but the AFP was not able to independently confirm the figures. Erdogan is in a lot of trouble, and there's nothing he's going to be able to do to fix it. Okay. It is what it is. I kind of feel for him, all right, in a certain sense. But to be honest, let me text my daughter here real quick. Give me a second here. Oh, kids are something else. There we go. Hopefully everything's fine. But Erdogan has gotten, okay, he's gotten full of himself. Okay, and a lot of the religious crackdown people are chafing at. It is what it is. All right, but there's also the fact that he's been putting troops in harm's way. He's been doing a number of other things as well that has caused issues. All right, so the people are, you were elected, we'll kick you back out. Well, okay, but this is not going to go well. All right, the region is unstable, and Erdogan himself sees himself as the new rise of Turkey and the leader of the Islamic world, the proper leader of the Islamic world, which historically means there was a day for it. Okay, I feel bad about it, but it is what it is. Okay, it's I don't have a solution within this country. The the country of Turkey is, most people don't understand this. The country of Turkey is very conservative. Okay, the Turks are, as a whole, Turks are not as aggressive as people try to make them out to be. They're very the Turks that I've met are very thoughtful people. Okay, I don't agree with a lot of their philosophies. Okay, but they have a different view of things. All right, and how the world works. But if you get their ire up, they are some of the fiercest fighters that you'll ever find. And when it comes to brutality, most people take lessons from them because they can be quite brutal when they have to be, and quite ruthless. Erdogan is seen as a hero to a lot of the populace because he stood up against some of let's be frank, the depravity in the West. And whether you like to admit it or not, running around with rainbow whatever and swinging your genitals out there is a form of depravity. Do you have more F words? Probably. I probably do. I'm just putting it out there. If you want to talk about some F words, let's talk about this story. Because I guarantee you a few of these were said. Florida man 21 drove dad's car into the ocean. A 21-year-old Floridian who was angry at his father drove the older man's vehicle into the ocean earlier today, police report. Investigators say that Joshua Kus, all right, had borrowed his father's car but failed to return the vehicle to his parents' Jacksonville Beach residence. At around 2 a.m., cops received a report of an auto in the ocean, according to an arrest report. Upon arriving at the beach, officers spotted a gray Subaru floating in the water. Elsewhere in the report, the car was correctly identified as the 2011 Volvo, XC70. Police soon located Kus since his father had been pinging the location of his son's phone. Kus copped to the ocean littering while he called a stupid move, and said he had recently argued with his father and his aunt. Right, Kus had sent his two relatives a 1 a.m. text warning that I'm going to drive the car into the Atlantic Ocean, police reported. Kus, however, advised that they did not take this threat seriously. Kus, investigators allege, sought to use a cinder block to send the car into the ocean. When that failed, he got into the car, drove it into the water. He reported turning on all the lights to make sure that no one was nearby before accelerating the vehicle into the ocean. While driving, he grinned and he wished he could point the middle finger at his father and aunt, a cop reported. Coos reportedly told one officer, "Hopefully they will listen to me now." After departing the beach, Coos, seen above, walked to his mother's nearby house. Coos's parents were divorced in 2023, court records show. After his father decided to press charges, Coos was arrested on felony criminal mischief. Coos, 60, reported the loss of $6,500 on the submerged wheels. Coos is being held in the county jail in lieu of $2,500 bond. In January of 2022, he pled no contest to a DUI charge and was sentenced to 12 months of probation. Coos, who was 18 at the time, was driving his father's Volvo when collared. In a letter to his son's sentencing judge, Coos wrote, "Joshua had a lot of work ahead of him, but I can only hope that he learns from his mistake and turns this into a good life lesson."
Okay.
Okay, welcome back.
Yeah, by the way, I'm back.
Yeah, as I see that. So, did you ever drive your father's vehicle into the ocean?
No.
Did you ever think about doing that?
No, for two reasons. One, I can't drive, and for the second reason, if I could and I did it, I wouldn't be here now. Would you?
I've never thought about doing something like that to my dad.
Yeah,
Right?
but if you had,
If I had, I probably wouldn't be here. No, you have a valid point. They wouldn't listen to me, so I drove my vehicle this into the ocean. 21-year-old man. A 21-year-old man drove his father's vehicle into the ocean because he wasn't being listened to at 2 a.m. in the morning.
21-year-old or 21 months old.
Yes. Obviously, and he's living with his mom. All right, because the parents are divorced. So, Daddy won't listen to me.
He's basically being raised as a spoiled little girl.
That's what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like.
It's usually what it is.
Why the Trump White House hates Europe?
Because they've got good sense.
The single group chat was more than just an intelligence gaffe. It revealed, like I said, it wasn't a gaffe. This was intentional, folks, and that's why I'm death on get rid of Waltz. And I'm not saying he's the one who perpetrated it, but dude, you're the one responsible. Off you go. Just pointing that to you, because if you don't want to hold your people accountable, whoever did this, then you need to go.
Yeah.
All right. It revealed that America is sick of the continent's freeloading. Yes! Exactly! The Trump cabinet inviting a journalist to a group chat to discuss the bombing of Yemen's Houthi rebels must have given the American security officials a collective heart attack. But for European and British officials, the most alarming aspect of the extraordinary affair was the single dissenting voice in the conversation played out on Signal. "I think we were making a mistake," said J.D. Vance, right? As he texted from an economics event in Michigan as Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz and CIA Director John Ratcliffe, among others, weighed up striking the Iran-backed Houthis. The group repeatedly targeted vessels in the Suez Canal and the Red Sea in recent months. 3% of U.S. trade runs through the Suez, said Vance. 40% of European trade does. There's a real risk that the public doesn't understand this or why it is necessary. Yeah, protecting Europe, all right, is a problem for us because we're the only ones doing it. What?
It's a problem for Europe as well.
Apparently not. They don't give a shit. All right. Oh, we're gonna like the earlier article that I did on Germany. Well, we're gonna plus up our military, and I flat out asked, how are you gonna do that? Well, we're going to spend all this money on what? You're not going to spend it on troops. How are you going to build up the number of troops? Dead serious. How in Germany would you build up the number of army
Well, they're
soldiers
not
and
going to
air
get
force and everything else?
volunteers.
Right, you're not going to get
They're not
volunteers.
gonna, you know why they're not going to get volunteers? Because nobody who's a real citizen of any country in Europe and in the UK wants to fight for their country anymore, because their countries aren't their countries anymore.
Well, the ones that do volunteer are going to be the patriots, the patriotic ones, the ones that you constantly scream are Nazis.
The ones that do volunteer will be the ones that are definitely not patriotic.
Well, the ones that sign up in Germany will be the patriotic ones that believe in trying to defend Germany. The problem is that those people have been castigated, right?
Yeah.
But they're not going to be able to get the numbers that they need. I agree with you. They're not going to be able to do it through voluntary. You're going to have to do some kind of conscription. How are you going to do it? You're going to bring back the old days of conscription the way they had it? I think it's a good idea. I think it's a good idea, but I don't think they're going to do it. I don't think they got the willpower to do it.
They don't have the money to do it, really.
That's another issue because they're going to learn some harsh lessons about how they've been freeloading off of America for too freaking long. And if you want to see what's going to happen there, we don't like Europe right now. All right, and a lot of Americans, don't get me wrong, there's still the idiots, all right, that want to see the best of America left and right. Okay, but you know they want, I shouldn't say the best of America. They want America to continue the way it's doing things, right? Because we're going to be Europe. We got to be Europe's best friends. We got to be this and they're like that until they find out that, oh, here's your uniform, here's your gun, go fight the war for them. They're going to be like
Europe
that
anymore,
right? But they've been living high on the hog with all these quote unquote social programs that are now already under stress because of their dumbass immigration policies. All right.
Yeah.
And now you got to sit up there and plus up. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
It's like a lot of these women who like join the army and try and get the special forces, and yeah, if actual conflict comes up, a hell of a lot of them suddenly fall pregnant.
That happens. I wish it didn't.
Yeah,
but it happens. Here's another sick story. Perv passenger next to a female CEO masturbated for an hour on a first-class flight, and the attendant did nothing, says a lawsuit.
I find it hard to believe.
A first-class perv on an American Airlines plane masturbated for an hour next to a stunned fashion entrepreneur on a flight from New York City to Milan. But a flight attendant dismissed his revolting behavior, saying, "Men just do the stuff like that." No, they don't!
No,
Okay.
This is a bogus story. I think it's fake.
The lawsuit's not fake.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not saying that she's not saying she's lying, not lying. All right, or that she's lying. Neil Elshiff, the CEO of 3 different companies, including the luxury vegan leather brand Mila. All right, said
she's lost all credibility with me.
She said she was terrified to go to sleep during a May 27th flight out of JFK Airport, fearing her seatmate would assault her. The man, identified in court papers as only John Doe, chugged multiple glasses of champagne before Elsliff noticed him grabbing his groin and rubbing his genitals over his pants. Right? She said in a legal filing. After the cabin lights dimmed in their premium economy cabin, I thought they were in first class. Premium economy? I think that's business class, isn't it? That doesn't say first class. For which Elsliff paid $3,000. The man got busy pleasuring himself, she claimed. Elsliff said she froze in her seat and began to panic. She felt extremely uncomfortable and helpless, court documents read. John Doe continued to masturbate for approximately 60 minutes during that flight. Neither the flight attendant nor the AA crew member walked through the premium economy cabin, according to the Brooklyn Federal Court lawsuit. When he finally stopped, Elshiff left her seat and found a flight attendant, but but got no help, she claimed. So you waited until he quote unquote finished, all right, and then you got up.
I think it's bullshit.
All right.
He probably said so. He probably said something to, and she decided to destroy his life.
I'm just trying to understand this, right? I just trying.
I mean, let's face it. If it really happened, she would have screamed the fucking cabin apart.
All right. The flight attendant told Elship there was really nothing that she could do other than to move the businesswoman to coach. Men just do stuff like that, a flight attendant allegedly told her, noting that her own husband did stuff like that and shocked Elshif claimed in legal papers. The flight attendant made Elf Chef Sharif, I'm not trying to butcher your name, lady, although I don't feel bad about doing it, but I am not trying to do it. All right. Feel she was expected to endure such gross misconduct and reinforce the pernicious and unlawful stereotype that women must tolerate men predation as a fact of life. How are you being preyed upon?
Yeah,
How are you being preyed upon?
This is a feminist hit piece.
Yeah, it sounds like it. The crew failed to report the incident, and the flight attendant allegedly refused to even speak to John Doe, she said. Because she is an Arab woman, the flight attendant did not treat her report of John Doe masturbating next to her as a sexual assault.
Oh, for
right?
fuck's sake.
And contended in the allegation, accusing American Airlines of negligence, discrimination, and intentional infliction of emotional distress. American strives to provide a positive experience for everyone that travels with us. We are reviewing the allegations in the complaint, a company spokesperson said in a statement. Okay. Do guys reach into the back and scratch their ass? Yeah. Do they sometimes scratch their balls? Yeah. I know of no guy that masturbates in his own pants.
Nope.
Okay? Just putting it out there. Not saying that this didn't happen.
I am.
X the doubt. Yeah.
No doubt. Just complete disbelief.
Yeah. This woman is looking for a lawsuit payday. You're exactly right. That's what this sounds like to me.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, if a business is that successful, what you do is riding in fucking economy.
Well, premium economy isn't first class, and you can't tell me.
That's what I'm saying.
And you cannot. That's the first thing. That's probably business class, which is still better than coach. Okay, but first class, you can't tell me this woman couldn't have gotten up and said something immediately. You can't tell me.
And she's made a complaint. She's paid for a ticket. The steward or stewardess is beholden to investigate.
Right, but apparently she waited till he finished. 60 minutes, which is another thing that I've
60 minutes.
Yeah, 60 minutes. He was doing this for 60 minutes apparently, which leads me to the next question of.
How was
really?
he still alive?
Yeah, I mean, nothing against anybody, but I don't know if people who have people that do that have to go into hospitals, all right, because they took too much Viagra and and their erection doesn't go down. Okay.
I think Matt's right.
Yeah, it probably is. All right. In a really worrisome sign, ethically sourced spare human bodies. What's ethical about this? All right, could revolutionize medicine. Human botuloids could reduce animal testing and provide drug development and alleviate organ shortages. Why do we hear about medical breakthroughs in mice but rarely see them translate into cures for human disease? Why do so few drugs that enter the clinical trials receive regulatory approval? Well, partly because a lot of that is stuck into we don't want to actually cure diseases from the government, right? And why is the waiting list?
Hey, Now we know why they're importing so many illegal migrants.
Well, that could be. All right. Welcome, Green Badger, by the way. I forgot to tell you hello. um, why is the
Oh,
waiting
good
list
day,
for
Oz. Oh,
why is the Oregon transportation list so long? These challenges stem in large part from the common root cause: a severe shortage of ethically sourced human bodies. What's an ethically sourced human body? It may be disturbing to characterize human bodies in such a commodifying terms, but the unavoidable reality is that human biological materials are an essential commodity in medicine, and persistent shortages of these materials create major bottlenecks in progress. This guy
the only
is
way out,
this guy
the only
is
way I can think of is people donating their bodies in their will, or their loved ones donating their bodies.
Carlston T. Charlesworth, Henry T. Greeley, and Hiromusuta Nakauchi. You guys sound like Joseph Mengele, all right, and the directors of, of Unit 731. I'm just putting it out
Yeah,
there,
yeah,
dude.
and oh, you forgot the board of directors of Disney.
Well, okay. Am I wrong? How could you even suggest doing this?
I'm not saying that I can say any one of them standing in an old windmill screaming, "Life, life, give my creation life."
Oh, good grief. In the story that was referenced by the chat earlier, police arrest parents for complaining about a school on the WhatsApp. One more reason not to have WhatsApp. Parents Maxie Allen and Rosalinda Levin, all right, were arrested in January for allegedly harassing their daughter's primary school, Cowley Hill Primary School, through emails and WhatsApp messages. The couple, who have a disabled neurodivergent, what the hell is neurodivergent?
Ah,
Doesn't this sound like this couple is are loons to begin with? All right, were detained. I'm not saying that this is right either. For 8 hours and subjected to searches and fingerprinting, but no charges were filed. The conflict began when Mr. Allen questioned the head teacher's appointment process, leading to a ban from school grounds and events. The school alleges that the couple's communications were excessive, upsetting to the staff, parents, and the governors. Hertfordshire, I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, police confirmed the arrests were based on harassment and malicious communication allegations, but concluded there was insufficient evidence for further action. What?
I have no idea.
You're going to tell me that the communications and everything that they sent were sufficient to arrest them, but not to charge
Uh-huh.
them? Really? Sounds to me they just called these guys a bunch of jerks, and that and these other the teachers got freaking all sorts of butt hurt. I don't know what the hell's going on with this, but this is Britain, right? Hertfordshire is a British place, right?
Hertfordshire.
Yeah, okay.
Hertfordshire.
Hertfordshire, okay. I knew I was butchering it.
Yeah. It's at times like this I wish I'd listened to what my mother used to tell me.
What?
I don't know. I wasn't listening at the time.
Oh. NYPD cop caught a video shooting.
If Jensen had been here and had said that, he would have just groaned and not asked.
That's probably true, right? New York PD cop caught on video shooting hoops in the yard of a burning New York City home. It's diabolical. Uh, the NYPD cop bizarrely decides to take a jump shot. Well, okay. Is he continually taking a jump shot? I mean, there are fire trucks here, right? I mean, what's he gonna do? Right? The unidentified uniformed officer threw up a long-range airball in a yard of still burning three-story home of East 3rd Street in Flatbush, where someone was critically injured, according to the footage and sources. The incident occurred on March 21st in 2024, right? But the video was posted on Instagram this week by what is New York? To me, look, this guy's got a crane there. What's he supposed to be doing? He was bored, saw a ball, decided to shoot a hoop. All right, his behavior was reprehensible.
It's out of context.
What do you mean it's out of context?
The video is out of context. We don't know if this is, they're trying to insinuate he was doing it while the emergency was going on. This could be afterwards.
That's true.
Yeah, like they're about to leave or something, or it's just about all over, apart from that little bit of fire.
Yeah, if they already had people out of it. Yeah, I mean, who knows? All right, I don't know. I mean, if he thought there was nobody there and that everything was taken care of already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I look. Is it the best look? No, but is it? How devastating is that really? Come on. Okay, on to the next story. We're almost finished, folks.
Oh, I'm loving it.
I can't even get a boo out. I'm actually laughing. Florida man 40, dressed as Ronald McDonald, arrested for trespass. He should have been arrested for dressing as Ronald McDonald.
No, he should have been taken to see a psychiatrist for dressing as Ronald McDonald.
You look like a clown, a cop told Christopher Marlowe, 40, after stuffing him into a squad car. No shit, I am a clown, stupid, Marlowe replied, who was wearing a Ronald McDonald costume and a red nose at the time. Police confronted Marlowe Monday afternoon in a Palm Bay, Florida shopping center, from which he had previously trespassed. Don't go anywhere, Chris, a cop announced. You're not free to leave. As seen on a body-worn police footage, Marlowe struggled with the officers. That's always a mistake. All right. Before being knocked to the ground and handcuffed. I want you to understand this, all right? You're not going to get away from the police. If you struggle with the police, they are going to increase the force. Okay?
Florida.
All right.
The only explanation needed, it's Florida.
One cop can be seen removing an orange replica gun from the pocket of Marlowe's yellow pants. Completing the clownish look, Marlowe wore a red and white striped shirt, a yellow vest, which had a skull logo in place of McDonald's arches. Yeah, that'll help the kiddies, right? He was not wearing the oversized red shoes, however. A search of Marlowe's backpack turned up multiple other clown outfits and a pack of 10 red noses. Charged with trespassing, a misdemeanor, and resisting officers with violence, a felony, Marlowe, seen at the right, was booked into the Brevard County Jail, where he was locked up in lieu of $5,500 bond and is scheduled for arraignment on April 17th. What a surprise! His rap sheet includes convictions for trespass, resisting arrest, possession of drug paraphernalia. In January, he pleaded no contest to possession of methamphetamine in a glass pipe.
Don't tell me. He was also caught on suspicion of attempting to murder a 10-year-old boy called Bartholomew.
He was sentenced to 65 days in jail and has been arrested in that case after causing a disturbance outside a McDonald's restaurant. Yeah. Alrighty. The penultimate story. Professional snake catcher in Australia was called out to a home where a pet bird had a close call with a coastal carpet python that squeezed its head into the avian's cage, probably looking for a meal. Stuart McKenzie of Sunshine Coast Snake Catchers 24/7 posted a video to social media showing the scene that unfolded in a Queensland home where a hungry coastal carpet python set its eyes on a pet caged bird. Thankfully, we got there in time. When I arrived there, the bird and the snake were literally touching noses between the bars of the enclosure. Unfortunately, many bird and other small animal cages are still sold regardless of whether they are snake proof or not. In our industry, it's hard to see so many families lose their pets because of this. If you put your bird out on the pantry or the patio to give it some fresh air, you might want to stick around to make sure you can bring it back in, or it could end up being lunch. I'm just putting it out there.
You can tell this wasn't a canary, because let's face it, if it was a yellow canary, that snake would be dead.
It would have been much more of a fight.
I thought
for sure.
I saw a snake. I did saw a snake.
But it wasn't a putty tat. Final story. Dun, dun, dun, dun, dun, dun, dun, dun. Raccoons impede attempts to capture the Wisconsin Zoo's escaped otters. They're working together, folks. It's a plot. It's a plot between the raccoons and the otters.
Yep.
The Wisconsin Zoo, searching for a pair of escaped otters, said that one of the animals was nearly caught in a trap, but the attempt was foiled by a meddling raccoon. The new zoo and adventure park in Green Bay, which had previously revealed the North American river otter Louis and Ophelia, escaped during a March 20th snowstorm, shared a video from a camera set up to monitor the trap located near the zoo. The zoo said at least one of the otters had repeatedly visited the traps, but only attempted to enter the contraption after it had already been sprung. Raccoons have unfortunately impeded our efforts, even setting off one of the traps not long before the otter arrived and tried to enter it. Officials said they are now attempting to use raccoon-proof traps to ensnare the fugitive otters. I'm just letting you guys know.
Yeah, that's gonna work.
Now, this could be the otters taking advantage of the raccoons. Hey, stupid! Why don't you go in there and see what's in that area?
Yeah.
Or it could be that the raccoons are like, you give us 10%, and we will go set the cage off for you. 10%. They're not asking too much.
I don't think raccoons have bad Russian accents.
That was actually a bad mafia accent. The fact that you thought it was Russian is good enough.
These days, mafia accent is Russian. They must break you.
You have a point. You do have a point, sir. Okay, that was the final story of the day. Hope that you all guys enjoyed the show. Thanks for coming out. And time to go.
Yep, you heard him. It's over. Go away.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Yeah, go on. Shut off.